The crate arrived at precisely 3:03 a.m. Lucas didn't expect it so soon, certainly not at this hour, but the delivery man said little. Just handed him a clipboard and muttered something about customs clearance before disappearing into the night fog. The wooden crate was old, reinforced with rusting nails and strange black symbols carved along its edge. He ran his fingers across the carvings, feeling a cold tingle under his skin. Ancient Burmese, maybe? Or something older? Lucas Wheeler was a cultural anthropologist and part-time restorer of Southeast Asian antiquities. He'd spent the past year corresponding with a dying monk from a remote village in northern Myanmar. The monk had promised to send him something forgotten by time. Now, here it was. With cautious reverence, Lucas pried the crate open. Inside were 9 wooden statues, each about the size of a child. Their faces were serene, eyes closed, hands folded. The wood was dark, aged, and veined like dried blood. Some were cracked, as though something inside had tried to get out. He gently lifted one from its straw bedding. It was heavier than expected. As he turned it over, a small fissure split along its back, and something slipped out. A piece of yellowed paper, tightly rolled and sealed with red wax. He stared at it. His heart began to thump. The paper was thin, almost translucent. He could see faint markings through the wax. A circle, a triangle, and strange looping symbols that didn't belong to any known script. Compelled by a mixture of curiosity and dread, Lucas broke the seal. A sharp hiss escaped as he unrolled the parchment. As if the air itself recoiled. The characters inside were written in a deep red ink, thick, slightly smudged, and disturbingly fresh. He felt something shift in the room. The shadows along the wall lengthened, stretching like limbs. The temperature dropped. A faint tapping began from within the crate, soft, like knuckles brushing against wood. Lucas spun around. Nothing moved, just the crate, and the 8 remaining statues. He looked back at the scroll. A single word was suddenly clear, written in the center of the parchment. Seal 1 broken. The next morning, the parchment still lay on Lucas's desk, its blood-red symbols refusing to fade. Despite everything, Lucas convinced himself it had been his imagination. A draft, a creaking floorboard, shadows dancing from car headlights. The mind played tricks, especially in the early hours. Still, something tugged at him, an unease that stuck like cobwebs in the back of his mind. He called Mei Lin, a linguist and occult symbologist. Mei Lin had worked with Lucas on previous restoration projects. When she arrived that afternoon, Lucas noticed she hesitated before entering the room with the statues. "They smell wrong," she murmured, wrinkling her nose. Lucas handed her the parchment. She studied the script with furrowed brows. "This isn't just old, it's deliberately hidden. These characters are layered. Some Burmese Brahmi, maybe even fragments of Pali. But look," she pointed to the red loops. "This one repeats in every quadrant, but never the same direction. It's a binding symbol." "Binding what?" Lucas asked. She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she traced the parchment with a gloved finger. This wasn't meant to be read. It was meant to trap something. Or someone. Suddenly, a sound echoed through the room. Tap, tap, tap. Both of them turned. The crate. One of the statues had shifted ever so slightly. Now leaning forward, Lucas swallowed. "Did you see that?" Mei Lin's eyes widened. "We need to seal this again." That night, Lucas couldn't sleep. The parchment sat under a heavy book. Yet every time he closed his eyes, he saw it fluttering, like breathing. At 3:03 a.m., he awoke to a strange scratching sound. He stepped into the hallway. The air was thick, heavy, almost wet. From the room where the statues were stored, a low whisper crawled through the silence. He couldn't make out the words. Only the cadence, a chant. Perhaps ancient, relentless. Lucas stepped inside. The parchment was gone. In its place stood one of the statues. No longer serene. Its eyes were open. By morning, the statue's eyes were shut again. Lucas stood frozen, unsure if it had ever truly opened them. Mei Lin insisted he must have dreamed it, sleepwalking. Maybe, but the scroll was still gone. No trace. just faint scorch marks where it had lain. Later that day, while inspecting the crate, they found another statue cracked open along its base. Not broken, peeled, like something had split it open from the inside. Another scroll lay beneath it. But this one was different. The wax was darker, almost black, and the parchment emitted a faint, metallic scent, like rusted iron and burnt herbs. Mei Lin refused to touch it. Lucas picked it up anyway. This scroll unfurled on its own, the wax crumbling like ash. The symbols glowed faintly, pulsing in a steady rhythm like a heartbeat. Then the lights flickered. The room dimmed unnaturally, as if shadows were devouring the light. Suddenly, a deep thud echoed from the hallway, then a loud crash. They ran out and found a bookshelf toppled. Books scattered everywhere, but more chilling was what lay underneath. 3 of the remaining statues, shattered. Splinters of wood littered the floor, along with paper. 3 more scrolls, their wax broken. Mei Lin gasped. "That's 5. Lucas turned pale. "What do you mean?" She pointed to the fragmented symbols. "Each of these is a seal. A containment. We've broken 5. A sudden gust of icy wind howled through the house. The windows shook violently. Lights burst one by one, leaving only the pale afternoon outside casting sickly yellow shadows. From somewhere deep within the house came a sound, subtle at first. A soft clicking, then a whisper, a breath, and then a voice. It rasped from every direction at once, high and low, echoing like it spoke through a tunnel of bone. "You should not have read them." Lucas and Mei Lin froze. The voice spoke again, softer this time. 5 opened, 4 remain. When the 9th breaks, the gate will open. The temperature plummeted. Mei Lin clutched her arm. "Lucas, something burned me." She rolled up her sleeve. On her forearm was a mark, seared into her skin as if branded. A circle, a triangle, and the same looping red symbol from the scrolls. Lucas stumbled back, horrified. The curse was no longer bound to the statues. It had begun binding to them. The library smelled of old parchment and something fainter, like smoke from centuries ago. Lucas and Mei Lin had taken refuge in the university archives, hoping to find any mention of the cursed statues. Hours passed in silence, broken only by the rustle of ancient documents and the distant creak of wood expanding in the heat. Then Mei Lin froze. She held up a yellowing journal, bound in what looked like leather, but it was too smooth, too pale. Inside was a name, the 9 Sentinels. The entry dated back to 1887. 9 wooden statues recovered from an abandoned monastery in the Burmese highlands. All identical, save for the expression carved beneath their closed lids. None dared to open them, save for one. The ink smudged at that point. But Lucas read on. He broke the seal on the first. 3 days later, he hanged himself in the bell tower, muttering, "She walks in the wood." Her eyes like lanterns. Lucas felt a cold sweat forming. More entries followed, scattered across decades. Written by explorers, monks, collectors. Each one ended in tragedy. 1911. A French collector receives 1 statue. Begins speaking in an unknown tongue. Disappears during a full moon. His wife finds only wood shavings in his bed. 1956. An American missionary brings 2 to Kansas. The town's children start drawing faceless women in their notebooks. Church bells ring at night, though the ropes are untouched. 1973. A Thai monk stores 4 in a temple vault. That temple burned to the ground. No bodies were found, only ash and perfectly intact statues among the ruins. Each bearer vanished. Each statue remained. Mei Lin turned to Lucas, whispering, "These statues, they're not artifacts. They're anchors. They bind something to this world." Lucas whispered back, "And we've broken 5. Suddenly, the lights overhead flickered. Then, darkness. A low groan echoed from the stacks behind them. Not wood, not metal, something breathing. Lucas turned his flashlight toward the noise. There, between the shelves, a figure stood. Not quite solid, not quite shadow. Its head tilted, its face, gone. Just smooth, pale skin stretched tight like cloth over a lantern. Then it moved, fast. Impossibly fast. vanishing before the beam could fix on it. Lucas and Mei Lin fled the library. Back at Lucas's house, the statues waited, but now they had changed. One had turned fully around, now facing the wall. Another had shifted its hand, no longer folded, but pointing toward the basement door. That door, Lucas realized with a chill, hadn't been opened in over a year. But now, it stood slightly ajar. As they approached, the house groaned, and from the darkness below came a voice, soft and wet and cold as death. He broke the sixth. She is awake. They didn't sleep that night. Lucas sealed the basement door with salt and ancient words Mei Lin sketched in red chalk, an old ritual meant to trap wandering spirits. But the lines smudged on their own, as if the house rejected the protection. It's watching, Mei Lin whispered. We need to leave this place. But they were already bound. That night, as they sat huddled in the candlelight, Mei Lin's phone lit up on its own. Voicemail. From an unknown number. She played it, hesitating. A woman's voice crackled through the speaker, soft, wet, and unnervingly calm. He called her name. She heard. The wood breathes now. Soon, it will walk. Then silence. Suddenly, all 9 statues, or what remained of them, emitted a low creaking sound. As if stretching, waking. Lucas felt a pressure in the air, as if gravity had shifted. His vision blurred, and for a brief second, he wasn't in the room anymore. He stood in a jungle clearing. The air thick, the sky red. In front of him, a crumbling stone altar. A figure stood behind it, clad in black robes, eyes hidden under a veil, skin pale as ash. Her mouth moved, but the voice echoed directly in his head. The 7th must choose. You've opened too many doors. Child of reason. Lucas blinked, and was back in the room. Did you see that? He gasped. But Mei Lin didn't answer. She stood frozen, her eyes wide. She pointed at the window. Outside, in the backyard, something moved beneath the trees. Not quite human. It walked like a puppet with broken strings, twitching toward the house. Lucas grabbed a camera. As he lifted it, he noticed something horrifying. In the reflection of the lens, there were 3 figures standing outside. But with the naked eye, only one. He looked again. Now none. But then, bang, the basement door burst open. From below rose a wave of freezing air, thick with the stench of burnt wood and incense. Mei Lin collapsed to her knees, clutching her chest. The 6th seal is broken. She gasped. I can feel her. She's in me. Lucas stared in horror as black symbols began to form under her skin, like ink seeping from within. The same looped markings from the scrolls, coiling across her arms, her neck, her face. Mei Lin's voice deepened, layered with something not her own. She will rise. The voice rasped. The wood was carved from the tree of gates. Every splinter remembers. Every statue is her eye. Then her head snapped back. Her mouth opened, and someone else screamed through it. A man's scream. Long, tortured. The voice of someone trapped for centuries. Lucas grabbed one of the remaining scrolls and tried to reseal it. But the wax melted in his hands, turned to blood and dripped onto the floor. Sizzling like acid, the candlelight flared, then went out. Darkness swallowed the room, and in the pitch black, dozens of tiny voices began to whisper all at once. She walks now. She sees you. You should not have touched the knife. The air was heavy with ash and whispers. Lucas dragged Mei Lin into the bathroom and slammed the door shut. Her body trembled violently, symbols still writhing beneath her skin as though alive. Her eyes had turned completely black, like wet obsidian. I can't hold her, Mei Lin whispered hoarsely. She's inside, scratching. Lucas turned on the taps, letting the sound of running water mask the whispers leaking through the house. But it wasn't enough. The thing, she, was awake. And the veil between worlds had thinned. He glanced down at the remaining statues. Only 2 were intact. 7 seals broken. And now, the 8th began to crack. Tick, tick, tick. A slow, rhythmic knocking came from within it, as if something inside were tapping to be let out. Lucas pulled out the journal again, the one from the archives. He flipped through the entries until he found a hand-drawn diagram, a ritual circle. 9 points. And at the center, an eye. Not a human eye. Something else. Slitted. Eternal. It was called the ninth eye. According to the final passage, if the ninth is opened, the gate completes. The she who waits crosses into flesh. Only a sacrifice, willing, blood-bound, soul unbroken, can reseal the path. Lucas's throat tightened. A sacrifice. A life. To seal the breach. Suddenly, Mei Lin jerked upright. Her voice returned, but deeper. Older, echoing with 1,000 breaths. You have touched her carvings. Let her carve you back. The floor shook violently. The lights shattered one by one. From the cracks in the walls seeped a black mist, curling like fingers, and in that fog, shapes began to emerge. Faceless silhouettes. All those who had broken seals before. Their spirits, bound forever to the wood. Now guardians of the gate they failed to contain. They reached toward Lucas, whispering warnings. Don't break the ninth. Don't let her see with all eyes. Then, a scream from the basement. Not human. Something between a beast and a woman. High-pitched, layered, like multiple mouths howling at once. Lucas looked at the last statue. It was bleeding. Thick, black ichor oozed from its base, dripping onto the floor where it sizzled in patterns, sigils Lucas had seen in his dreams. She's not just a spirit, Mei Lin murmured, suddenly lucid. She's a goddess, forgotten, sealed by monks centuries ago. Carved into the statues, each one an eye, a limb, a voice. Lucas backed away. And if all 9 are opened? Mei Lin looked up at him, tears mixing with blood. She will have a body again. Suddenly, the final statue split. The 9th eye was open. From it spilled not blood, but shadows, which coalesced into a tall, veiled figure. Her robe flowed like smoke. Her feet never touched the ground, though her face was hidden. Lucas felt her stare burn into his soul. You broke the 9th, she whispered. Now choose. Join, or bind me again. Lucas turned to Mei Lin, and realized, he was the sacrifice. The veiled woman hovered above the broken 9th statue, her form a storm of shadow and silk. Time had unraveled around her. The walls of the house bent inward, groaning with ancient weight. Lucas and Mei Lin stood within a space that no longer felt like earth. You broke the 9th, she said again, her voice like wind through bone. Now choose. Join, or bind. Lucas felt her inside his mind, memories unraveling. Heart laid bare. He saw visions. Monks chanting by candlelight, sealing her into wood, blood sacrifices, centuries of waiting in silence. Watching through the eyes of the statues, Mei Lin stepped forward, weak but conscious. The marks on her skin pulsed softly, no longer violent. I'll do it, she whispered. I'll be the sacrifice. Lucas turned sharply. No, you've already been marked. If she takes you, there's no sealing, only possession. He looked at the shattered 9th statue and realized the truth. His soul had been untouched. Unmarked. Whole. That's what the ritual required. I can do this, Lucas said quietly. She wants a vessel. I'll give her one, but not the one she expects. He walked into the ritual circle. The spirits of the former statue bearers appeared, watching, silently nodding. One by one, they formed a ring around him, chanting in tongues long forgotten. The veiled woman extended a hand. Her fingers were long, thin, not flesh but shadow woven tight. Lucas took it, and then, he spoke her name. The true one, learned from the journal, buried beneath a symbol no human could read unless they had touched all 9 scrolls. Aisheth. The moment the name left his lips, the house exploded in golden light. The shadows howled. Time stopped. Lucas felt his body disintegrating. Not in pain, but in peace. He became part of the seal. His consciousness fused with the sigils, with the statues. His final thoughts were not fear, but clarity. He was the gatekeeper now. Days later, Mei Lin awoke in a hospital bed. There were no statues, no symbols, no voices in her head. She was free. The house had burned down, completely. Investigators found no cause, but noted 9 deep circles burned into the ground, like ancient wheels of fire. No trace of Lucas remained. But Mei Lin knew. He was there, watching, guarding. She later opened a small antique shop in a quiet town, far from the past. One day, a child came in holding a wooden carving of a monk. He asked, "Is this scary?" Mei Lin smiled softly. "No," she said, "it's protection." And on a shelf behind her, among quiet relics and faded incense, stood a small wooden statue, one eye open, eight closed, still, silent, but safe.